July 20th, 1944, 12:42 in the afternoon. A deafening roar shattered the silence of the Wolf's Lair. Smoke filled the conference room in East Prussia. Splinters of heavy wood flew through the air like shrapnel. 4 men died instantly. 20 others lay bleeding on the concrete floor. But the primary target walked away. Adolf Hitler dusted the soot from his uniform. His trousers were shredded, his eardrums were burst. He suffered temporary paralysis in his arm. But he was alive. This survival triggered a bloodbath. The Gestapo launched a wave of terror within hours. Hundreds of arrests followed. Among them was Hans Oster. Why did a high-ranking general betray the regime? He had rank, status, and protection, but hatred for the dictator was stronger than any oath. Oster was not just an officer, he was a master spy, a double agent operating from the very center of German military intelligence. He had spent years sabotaging the machinery of the Third Reich from the inside. He risked everything to stop the war. But when the bomb failed, his cover evaporated. At first glance, a respected leader of the Wehrmacht, but in reality, the architect of the entire conspiracy. Events accelerated. Oster's capture was not the end. It was the beginning of a nightmare. There was no trial, only interrogations, beatings, a slow march toward a brutal execution. The failure of the assassination attempt came down to inches. Colonel Klaus von Stauffenberg had placed the briefcase bomb directly beneath the map table. It sat near the dictator's feet. But luck intervened. A heavy oak table leg stood between the explosive and Hitler. It absorbed the lethal force. The footage shows the conference room is a shell. The roof has collapsed. The walls are stripped bare. Stauffenberg watched the explosion from a distance. He was certain the tyrant was dead. He bluffed his way past the checkpoints and flew to Berlin. Operation Valkyrie began. This was the conspirators' emergency plan. It was designed to mobilize the reserve army and seize control of the government. Teleprinters clattered across the capital. Orders went out. Tanks rolled into the streets of Berlin. Units moved to arrest SS officers and secure government ministries. For a few precious hours, the mechanism worked. The Third Reich tottered on the brink of collapse. The conspirators believed they had won. But then, a different report began to circulate. The radio signals changed. News broke that Hitler was not dead, but merely injured. The coup was over. The explosion failed. The dictator walked out of the smoke with only a few scratches. The plot collapsed instantly. Telephone lines went dead. Orders vanished into the void. Senior officers hesitated, hands hovering over their sidearms, unsure which side to take. Then came the sound that sealed their fate. Adolf Hitler's voice crackled over the radio. The broadcast reached every corner of the Reich. It was proof of life. It was a death sentence for the resistance. By midnight, the hunt began. Conspirators were dragged from their offices in the Bendler block. They were not given trials. They were marched into the courtyard. The headlights of trucks illuminated the execution wall. Firing squads raised their rifles. Flash, bang, silence. Many were executed on the spot. Their bodies hit the cobblestones, but others faced a darker end. Hitler's fury was absolute. He did not just want them dead, he wanted them erased. He ordered a nationwide manhunt. The Gestapo fanned out across the country. It was a reign of terror. It lasted until the Soviet tanks entered Berlin. 5,000 people were arrested. Hundreds were marched to the gallows. Why did the purge reach so deep? The regime wanted to tear out the rebellion by the roots. But one root had been growing for a long time. Among the names on the death list was a man who had been sabotaging the machinery for nearly 10 years, Hans Oster. But who was Hans Oster? And how did a high-ranking German officer become one of Hitler's most dangerous enemies? At first glance, a model Prussian soldier. But in reality, the spider in the web of the resistance. Hans Paul Oster was born on August 9, 1887. The city was Dresden. His background was strict. He was born into a deeply religious Protestant family. His father stood in the pulpit as a pastor. The home was filled with scripture and discipline. But young Hans rejected the church life. He did not want to save souls. He wanted to serve the state. He chose the military. 1907. Oster joined the artillery. He put on the uniform and never looked back. 7 years later, the Great War began. He served with honor on the Western Front. He saw the trenches. He endured the shelling. His competence was undeniable. He rose to the rank of captain and earned a place within the prestigious German General Staff. But the war ended in catastrophe. 1918. Defeat. Like millions of Germans, Oster watched his world dissolve. The Treaty of Versailles was not just a peace deal, it was a humiliation. The archives show maps redrawn with brutal strokes. Germany was stripped of territory. The economy was crushed by reparations. The proud army was slashed to a mere 100,000 troops. Oster survived the cuts. In the chaos of the post-war years, he stayed in the barracks. He climbed the ladder. By 1929, he was a major. His career seemed unstoppable. But then, a mistake. It wasn't a tactical error. It wasn't. It was personal. 1932. Oster began an affair with a fellow officer's wife. The scandal broke. The code of honor was rigid. There was no room for negotiation. He was forced to resign. The uniform was taken away. It seemed his military life was finished. Then came the political earthquake. January 1933. Adolf Hitler seized power. The Weimar Republic fell. Brown shirts marched through the Brandenburg Gate. Events accelerated. Oster watched the rise of the new chancellor. He did not see a monster yet. He saw a strong man who could tear up the Treaty of Versailles. He saw a chance for national redemption. In the beginning, the future traitor applauded the regime. It was a fatal miscalculation. Restoration of honor. That was the promise. Hans Oster believed the new regime would rebuild a shattered Germany. He put on the uniform. Within months, he entered the headquarters of the Abwehr, military intelligence. But the illusion did not last. Why did his faith crumble so quickly? It seemed the Nazis brought order, but they brought terror. The regime moved with frightening speed. They crushed all political opposition. The gates of Dachau opened. The camps swallowed the regime's enemies. The sound of boots on pavement became constant. Churches bent the knee to the swastika. In the public squares, bonfires raged. Works by Jewish liberals and Marxists turned to ash. The smell of burning paper hung over the cities. But this was only the beginning. June 1934, the night of the long knives, the event that broke Oster completely. Hitler struck. He ordered the SS to decapitate the rival SA paramilitary. Ernst Röhm fell. But the hit list was longer than just rivals. It included old scores. SS squads moved in the dark. Former Chancellor General Kurt von Schleicher was gunned down in his home. Then came Major General Ferdinand von Bredow. Von Bredow was not just a name on a list. He was the former head of the Abwehr. He was Oster's close friend. Oster received the news. He did not grieve in silence. The murder transformed his disappointment into active resistance. At first glance, a loyal intelligence officer, but in reality, a saboteur in the heart of the beast. Under Admiral Wilhelm Canaris, the new Abwehr chief, the department changed. It became a Trojan horse. Oster began recruiting. He built a secret network of anti-Nazi officers and officials. His position gave him the keys to the kingdom. He gathered classified files. He forged passports. He diverted restricted communications. Every piece of paper became a weapon against the Führer. Then came 1938, the Blomberg-Fritsch affair. Hitler used blackmail and fabricated scandals to purge two senior generals. It was a crude power grab. For Oster, dislike shifted to absolute hatred. There was no turning back. He sought allies at the very top. He met Colonel General Ludwig Beck, chief of the General Staff. Beck openly rejected the suicidal plan to invade Czechoslovakia, but Hitler pushed him out. Franz Halder took the seat. In the archives, secret notes revealed the truth. Halder whispered his true feelings. He called Hitler the incarnation of evil. The circle was complete. Oster, Beck, Halder. They stopped talking. They started mapping out a coup. September 1938. The plan was ready. Storm the Reich Chancellery, neutralize the SS guards, and take the dictator dead or alive. The conspirators did not want a negotiation. They wanted a full reset. Their goal was to restore the German monarchy and place Prince Wilhelm of Prussia on the throne. But the coup relied on one specific trigger. They knitted Hitler to make an obvious, reckless move toward war. Why did the plan fail? The soldiers were armed and waiting, but peace destroyed the conspiracy. British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain flew to Munich. He met with Hitler and agreed to the partition of Czechoslovakia. The plot collapsed instantly. The newsreels show crowds cheering in London while Hitler smiles in Berlin. He was hailed as a diplomatic genius. The generals locked their files. They lost their chance. But this was only the beginning. September 1st, 1939. The illusion of peace shattered. World War II erupted. Opposing the regime was no longer just dangerous. It was a death sentence. Hans Oster refused to back down. He initiated one of the most brazen acts of treason in military history. He began meeting secretly with Major Sass, the Dutch military attaché in Berlin. At first glance, two officers sharing a drink, but in reality, the transfer of top-secret invasion routes. Oster warned the Netherlands more than 20 times. He provided dates. He provided logistics. He did not hide his hatred. He referred to Hitler only as the pig who has departed for the front in the West. Tragically, the Dutch government froze. They did not believe the warnings. They could not accept that a high-ranking German officer would betray his own flag. May 10th, 1940, the attack began. The camera records, paratroopers dropping from the sky, and tanks crushing border posts. The Luftwaffe dominated the air. The Netherlands fell within just 6 days. Despite the risk of execution, Oster continued his work. 1941 changed the scale of the conflict. Hitler launched the invasion of the Soviet Union. Behind the lines, the systematic murder of European Jews began. There was no turning back. Oster expanded the network. He established contact with Colonel Henning von Hennig. The resistance grew. March 1943. The target was airborne. Treskow's resistance network within Army Group Center initiated the strike. General Hans Oster provided the tools. British-made plastic explosives. The delivery method was silent. Conspirators smuggled the device onto Hitler's personal aircraft. It wasn't in a steel case. In the frame, a package disguised as a bottle of cognac. The timer was active. The plane climbed. Why did the assassination fail? The chemistry was sound, but the environment was hostile. In the unpressurized cargo hold, the temperature dropped below freezing. The cold seized the mechanism. The detonator failed to fire. Hitler landed safely, oblivious to the death stored in the luggage compartment. This was only the first failure. Days later, Colonel Rudolf von Gersdorf attempted a suicide mission. The location, a Berlin museum showcasing captured Soviet weapons. Gersdorf arrived with explosives packed into his uniform. His plan was total destruction. He intended to detonate the charge while standing next to the dictator. He started the 10-minute acid fuse, but Hitler ignored the schedule. He rushed through the exhibit. The tour lasted minutes instead of the planned 30. Visual suggestion. Gersdorf, standing alone, sweat on his brow as the entourage disappears. The colonel sprinted to a bathroom. With trembling hands, he disarmed the bomb seconds before the explosion, but the worst was yet to come. April 1943. The Gestapo struck. Agents arrested Hans von Dohnanyi, one of Oster's closest allies in the Abwehr. At first glance, an intelligence officer, but in reality, a smuggler of human lives. Dohnanyi had been moving Jews to Switzerland, disguising them as Abwehr agents to fool the border guards. The police found the proof. Incriminating files lay exposed on his desk. Disaster followed instantly. During the raid, Dohnanyi whispered a warning to Oster. Oster reacted. He reached out, trying to swipe the documents and destroy the evidence, but the Gestapo agents were faster. They intercepted his hand. The trap snapped shut. Oster was stripped of his rank and dismissed from the Abwehr. The resistance lost its shield. The network fell into total chaos. For over a year, Oster remained a prisoner in his own home.